Jumping into the number 5 spot of the top 5 best budget Bluetooth speakers is the SoundCore 2, coming in at a price tag of only $31.99. If you guys want to check out any of the 5 speakers in this video, there's Amazon links below for the US, UK, Canada, and international links, but let's talk about the SoundCore 2. Alright, so that $31.99 price tag is with a coupon, so check the links below for current pricing because they can change. But let's talk about the most important thing, sound quality. The sound quality here is definitely not as good as others on the list. It's lacking in bass. There really isn't much bass here at all. However, the trebles here, while they're definitely muddy, are pretty dang clear, even at high volumes. And boy, does this thing get loud as heck for its size. Especially when considering the price of it, this thing gets really, really loud. Even at full volume, there really isn't any sort of distortion, and it will fill a room with a lot of people in it, which is impressive. Again, remember, not much bass here, but for the size of this thing and price, it gets pretty dang loud. And outdoors, while this doesn't do as well as other speakers on the list, for how big it is and cheap it is, it does pretty dang well, again, because of, well, the overall loudness that it's able to get. Now, unfortunately, EQ tuning is not possible through the SoundCore app with this one specifically. Kind of the cheaper ones don't have the EQ tuning. So that's really the only downfall. If this had EQ tuning, it would be a lot better of a speaker, even though it's already really good for the price. Now, one really cool thing is you can actually stereo pair these speakers. So if you have 2 of them, you can pair them together. However, I think it would be better to spend more on a better speaker rather than to get 2 of these. Or if you want to do some stereo pairing, maybe spend a little bit more on a nicer speaker, which we're going to talk about in the video. But yeah, wouldn't recommend getting 2 of these. 1 would probably be the best. If you have a higher budget, I'd just spend more on a better speaker. Now, as for battery life, this gets 24 hours on a full charge. Obviously, that's not at 100% volume, but I think that's about 60% volume, and that's pretty dang impressive. Now, the build quality here is extremely solid. This has a metal front grille with a single piece matte smooth finish shell that's plastic but very rugged feeling. You definitely do not need to be careful with this speaker. It's got an IPX7 waterproofing rating, so I've had no problem submerging this, using it in the shower, dunking it underwater. Yeah, you're good to go to basically use this however you want. And lastly, for the ports, this has a USB-C for charging, and it actually has an aux, which is crazy. But with that, let's move on to the number 4 spot. And this is the Sony SRX XB13. This thing comes in at a price tag of $49.99. I ended up getting it at 58 bucks, but at the time of filming, it's $49.99. I honestly was not expecting when I bought this speaker for it to make it on the list, but this thing impressed me. Sound quality here is super impressive. While this absolutely lacks deep bass, the trebles and especially the mids have fantastic warmth to them. The clarity of the instruments and the warmth to the mid-range is seriously impressive. However, as you'd expect from the size, there is pretty much no deep bass at all. That being said, I seriously fell in love with this speaker for hiking, walks, or traveling, which I took this on. It is so freaking practical and easy to just hang off your chair or a backpack without being a hindrance. And the fact that you still get that awesome clarity, this thing really, really impressed me. Now, for the overall volume of this is a personal listening speaker, maybe 2, 3, 4 people max. But really, if you want a super loud speaker, this is not it. If you want good clarity and mid-range and the practicality to really take this wherever you want, that's the big thing here. Most of the time, I'm listening between 80 and 100% volume. And at those volumes, it's really nice for fairly close to you. And I do like to just listen to my music. If we're talking background music, you're probably gonna have this around 50, 60%. But yeah, at those volumes, it also doesn't distort. It's very much designed to be listened to at 80 and 100% volume. As far as EQ tuning, this has none. Like inherently, it doesn't have anything on the app that's not compatible with Sony's app, so you cannot EQ tune this. You'd have to do it through your phone or whatever you're using to listen to it on. However, for stereo pairing, this is possible to stereo pair it. Now, personally, I don't think that this makes a great speaker to get 2 of them and stereo pair them, because the purpose of this speaker is to be hyper compact and easy to take anywhere with you and to quickly take this out, listen to music, whether you're hiking, basically wherever you go. It stays attached to you like your wallet. And if you have 2 of them, that makes the practicality a lot harder. And while this doesn't have the bass, it just doesn't make sense to use it stereo rather than getting, well, the number 3 spot. And that's the one that I recommend most for getting 2 speakers and using it in stereo. Now, for the battery life, this gets 16 hours, which is pretty dang good. And one cool thing about this is because of the shape of it and size, it actually fits in cup holders. So if you want to stick this in your cup holder in your car or the back seats, something like that, it is nice to store. Now, build quality here is lighter than I expected, but it's built very well and quite rugged. Great for hiking, throwing around. The top grill is also all metal and very durable. And this has an IP68 rating for water and dust proofing, which is great. So really, this is a very, very rugged speaker. So again, it's really kind of designed for that hiking active lifestyle, or if you just want the quality of life of never really having to worry about your speaker kind of getting hurt, because this one's not. As for ports, this just has one USB-C for charging, but with that, let's move on to the number 3 spot. And this speaker absolutely blew me away. In the number 3 spot is the Tribit StormBox 2, coming in at a price tag of $67.99, but with a coupon currently at the time of filming, that brings it down to $61.19. For that price, this is an unbelievably good speaker. And honestly, what probably 70% of you guys are going to get. Sound quality here is really, really awesome for the price. While the trebles are not quite as good as the XB13, this speaker has a fullness to it, and the trebles are by no means bad. Now, the driver placement is a big part of this. This speaker actually doesn't use drivers in the front, but use stereo drivers, so 2, one coming out the left side, one coming out the right side. That is really cool. Now, this creates a great fullness in rooms and gives much better 360-degree sound, whether that's outdoors or if you put the speaker in the middle of a room. But what about bass? It's actually really good here. With the X bass button, which enables the boosted bass, it's not crazy deep, but still, for a small speaker, it definitely gives you more than you're expecting, and it's clean and doesn't distort. Now, the app here is also great and really easy to connect, and it's super easy to do a custom EQ tune, which after I did that, it did give me quite a bit more clarity on the treble, so I do definitely recommend doing that. But if you guys are interested in stereo pairing, this speaker is the one that I would definitely recommend to get 2 of them if you have the budget and do a stereo setup, because this one, it's the best for doing that overall. One of the reasons is this has a built-in physical stereo pairing button. That means you don't have to go through an app, you don't have to mess around, and they pair really fast. One speaker's on, you're already playing music out of it, turn the other speaker on and click that pair button on both of them, and pretty much instantly they connect to each other and they tell you which one's the left channel and which one's the right channel. This makes the experience so good. And honestly, this is what I would do if I didn't have tons of speakers at my disposal. Having this in a stereo setup is a far better experience than even a speaker twice the price of this, but just one. This thing sounds so good in stereo mode. Really a truly amazing listening experience because you can be in the center of it, and the imaging when in stereo mode, I think because of those 2 speakers there, is just really impressive. Now, continuing on with that, battery life is also great here. Tribit does a great job, 24 hours, obviously not at full volume, but if you're listening in stereo mode, you're probably actually gonna hit that 24 hours because you don't need it to be as loud when you have 2 of them. Really, really good. Now, the build quality here not only feels rugged and durable, but downright luxurious. The fabric has a tight weave here, and the buttons for control on the front are nicely rubberized and feel great. The fit and finish is solid, and the buttons on the back also feel very solid. And this is IPX7 rated, so full waterproof, no problems there. You can dunk this, throw it in the pool, whatever you want. Pretty much industry standard now to be at least IPX7. And for the ports, this has USB-C and an aux. The StormBox 2 probably strikes the best value for most people. And while it's not the best speaker on the list, I do think it's the best value speaker on the list, especially if you do the stereo pairing. But with that, let's move on to the number 2 spot. And this is the JBL Flip 5. The sound quality on the Flip 5 is impressive for the size of the speaker. And to relate it, the Tribit StormBox 2 and the Flip 5 are pretty much an identical size. The trebles here are really, really clear. You can really hear more depth to the music, hearing the different sounds and instruments in the music. While the bass is still not that bassy, obviously due to the size, you're not going to beat physics, it's slightly cleaner than the Tribit StormBox 2. And while the StormBox 2 has more bass overall due to the speaker placement, it fills rooms better but does not do as well above volumes of 75%, while the JBL does quite well at all volumes and gets very genuinely loud. Overall, the trebles and depth to the music is better than the StormBox 2. Is it $30 better? I'd say maybe. If this is going to be your only speaker and you're like me, which the absolute most important thing is sound quality, then I would say yes. But me personally, personally, I would rather spend an extra 30 bucks and get two StormBox 2s, and I think that overall would be a better listening experience. However, that's just my 2 cents. The JBL Flip 5 objectively has better sound quality. Now for EQ tuning on this does have an app and you can set up stereo pairing, but you can't adjust the EQ. I thought this was kind of weird, but to be fair, the JBL Flip 5 does have very, very well-tuned EQ out of the box, so maybe you don't need it. Now, like I said, with stereo pairing, this is able to be stereo paired. The Tribit makes more sense. It's cheaper, especially when you're looking at about $120, $125 to get two StormBox 2s, and the JBL Flip 5, you're talking about like $180, and that's where you're kind of moving into bigger speakers that might be worth it to just get one bigger speaker. Pair that with the fact that it doesn't have a physical switch to just be able to quickly pair them. I think maybe you skip the stereo pairing with this one. Now, battery life is really the only con here. It comes in at only 12 hours, and if you're listening at full volume, it's gonna be less than that. So the StormBox 2 is better as a hiking or out and about speaker, but if you're just at home moving around the house, the Flip 5 is going to have better sound quality, and especially if you're having a party and want a louder speaker, well, the Flip 5 is no competition. It gets so much louder and is so much clearer at louder volumes than the StormBox 2. While it still gets very, very loud, above 75, 80%, the StormBox 2 does kind of distort and the sound quality is not optimal. However, that might not matter if you get two of them. Now, the build quality on the Flip 5 is solid. The fabric weave is more durable but rougher than the Tribit. Fit and finish here is great. This thing feels like you could really chuck this around and it'd take a hell of a beating. It's also IPX7 rated and no problems with water. Now for the ports, this only has a USB Type-C, but it is an integrated waterproof USB Type-C, so there is actually no like opening flap like all the other speakers on the list. This thing, you just plug it right in, and that is pretty cool. This also has a battery indicator, which I really like to have. But with that, let's move on to the #1 best budget Bluetooth speaker. This is by far, if you want sound quality, by far the best budget Bluetooth speaker you can buy. This is the SoundCore Motion Boom, coming in at a price tag of $99.99. This is the best sound quality you're gonna get for under 100 bucks. This is using a true side-by-side stereo setup, having dual drivers in the front. The bass here is the biggest improvement, going much deeper and fills a room very nicely. Also definitely has the best outdoor experience. The mid bass here that most Bluetooth speakers lack is pretty dang good. Obviously, this doesn't get super low when compared to more expensive, larger speakers, but this is no doubt very impressive for its size and price especially. This has impressively clear trebles and mids, especially after EQ tuning this speaker. That being said, the trebles and clarity are still slightly better on the JBL Flip 5, except for the very, very top end of the trebles, where the JBL does kind of drop off hard. The Motion Boom also obviously gets the loudest, so if your focus is using these for parties or hanging out with a lot of friends, this is by far the best one. It's also the largest. But seriously, for 1 cent under 100 bucks, this is really impressive sound quality, and the bass here is actually full and deep and rich. Now, the EQ can also be fully customized. You do this through the SoundCore app, and not just that it's able to be EQ tuned, but it is freaking impressive how much control SoundCore gives you over the EQ tuning. A lot of times you can EQ tune your speaker, but then really it's kind of holding back how much it actually tries to pump out of the speaker. But here, if you choose to turn the bass up, it's gonna turn it up to a point where it sounds bad, which might sound like a bad thing, but that allows you to really truly dial in the EQ exactly as you like it and as much as the speaker can literally do, which to an audiophile like me is super, super impressive. But out of the box, this actually sounds really good. Now, another really cool thing is you can stereo pair these speakers, and I think this would be a better way to do it over the Flip 5 if you don't mind having, well, two bigger speakers. While this is definitely still portable, it's obviously less portable than the StormBox 2 or the Flip 5, and especially the XB13. But if you want it for parties or in the house, that is gonna be a pretty awesome experience. Now for the battery life, you might expect for how big this is, it's gonna suck, and well, that's just not true. This thing gets 24 hours, obviously not at full volume, but you can definitely do 24 hours at a very good listening volume for personal listening. I mean, it's pretty impressive how much battery life they give you. Build quality here is very solid and extremely durable. However, it is a little cheap feeling. The plastic, while it definitely feels solid, is just not as luxurious. This definitely feels more about durability and prioritizing sound quality, which I 100% agree with how they did that, because they kept the price low while having really good sound quality. This is also fully IPX7 rated, and you can throw this in a pool and do whatever you want. In fact, it would be really good for pool parties. Now it has one last special thing. This has a USB-C for charging, but it also has a USB Type A for charging your phone or really whatever you want. That is really, really cool. But again, if you want to check out any of the 5 speakers in this video, there's Amazon links below for the US, UK, Canada, and international links. But this was Consumer Tech Review High Speed, and I'll see you guys in the next video.